In this video, we are going to learn how to remove the background from an image. Follow along with each step in the video. In Photoshop, we are equipped with a variety of different tools. Some tools can be used for a variety of different purposes and achieve the same desired result. You will see as we go through this tutorial that there are multiple methods to remove the background and all can be effective. First, open up a file of the person walking down the path with bag in Photoshop. Before we get started with removing the background, let's go over into our layers area and double click on our image and click OK so that we remove that lock symbol from our layer 0 here. The first set of tools that we're going to talk about to remove background are the marquee tools. If we go directly below the move tool, you'll see that we have our marquee section here. We have the option to choose from 4 different tools. So we have a rectangular marquee, an elliptical marquee, single row marquee, and single column marquee. We will only be working with the rectangular and elliptical marquee. So if I select that rectangular marquee tool first, you'll notice now on my document that I have kind of a T-looking cursor. If I click and drag, it's going to allow me to select anything in the shape of a rectangle on there, and then if I were to click delete on my keyboard, it's going to remove the background, and we have that checkered background, so that is that transparent background here. Now I'm going to click Control Z and remove that selection, and if I go up to select, I can deselect there and that will remove that rectangular selection. Let's go into the elliptical marquee tool here and select that next. If I were to go around my person walking here down the road, I could select them. And let's say I wanted to remove this entire background. If I were to click delete, you'll notice that removes my person. I can delete everything in the background, and I'll do that by first clicking Control Z. So I have my selection here. And what I'm telling Photoshop right now is I want to delete everything inside this circle. I don't want to do that. I want to delete everything outside of the circle. So the easiest way to inverse that selection so that it's not the person in there is to simply go up to the Select tab, and if I go to Inverse, I can click Delete, and that will delete everything outside of that selection. So with the rectangular marquee tool or the elliptical marquee tool, both those tools are great if you have a section of a picture that you want to remove in maybe the shape of a kind of oval, or if you want to remove rectangular areas. Both those tools will be very effective for removing background in that manner. Let's get our image back to the way it was. So I'm going to hit Control Z here and again go back to Select and deselect. Another way you can deselect is just simply click Control D. That's an easy shortcut to use. But the next tools that we're going to talk about are the different lasso tools. So we have the lasso tool, the polygon lasso tool, and the magnetic lasso tool. Let's start with just the typical lasso tool. So you'll notice when I move on my document, I have an arrow and I also have a symbol of a lasso right below that. The lasso tool allows us to select an area in your image in a free form shape. So you'll notice if I just click around, or if I hold down and drag around my person, I can draw on the outside of them and simply go back and connect to my starting point, and that's going to select everything inside of here. Okay, and you notice that I could just simply hold down and drag around them to customize my selection there. Now if you remember back to when we used the elliptical marquee tool, we did an inverse selection, so we can go up to Select and click Inverse, and if we were to click Delete here, you'll notice that that removes the background from our person. So I'm going to get us back to where we were, so Control Z to get us back to that main point or main image there, and I'm going to click Control D to deselect it. So the next lasso tool that I want to go over with you here real quick is the polygon lasso tool. So if I click the polygon lasso tool, what that's going to allow me to do is draw straight edge segments of a selection border. So basically what that means is if I just click around my person here, I can just drag and select around them. Now you'll notice that I'm kind of clicking often here, and the reason for that is if I were to go super far, it creates a straight line. Okay, it creates a straight line. That's why it's called the polygon lasso tool. So if I just simply click in different sections, you'll notice that it creates straight lines, but I can kind of work my way around that by clicking often so that I don't have huge sections here where it's just a giant straight line. And then I can keep working my way back to my selection, and then again if I wanted to do an inverse selection, I could click inverse and delete, and that's another way that I can remove my background. So again, let's undo that and deselect it. Our third lasso tool, if we go back to our lasso tools section, we have the magnetic lasso tool. So the magnetic lasso tool is going to allow us to select parts of an image by selecting the high contrast edges around the shape. So if I click here and drag, you'll notice how it kind of connects, and I'm not even clicking, I'm just dragging around the person, and any areas that have contrast, it's picking up on those. So her jacket in this image is darker than the road, and then her hat would be darker than the grass. It's kind of separating those two, the different contrast areas, and as I go around, it's just connecting to that, making it super easy for us to create our selection. And then now you'll notice that I have the person selected here. Again, if I go up to the Select tab and click Inverse, I can click Delete. And you can see that out of all the different selection processes that we've used, whether that was elliptical marquee, the rectangular marquee, the polygon, or just normal lasso, this magnetic has been the best one so far. So for each image that you work with, there's going to be different tools that work better. So there's not a one-size-fits-all, this is the best tool. All of them have unique purposes, but for this specific example, our magnetic tool seems to have done a really good job. I'm going to click Control-Z here to undo that removing of the background, and then Control-D again to deselect. The next tool that we're going to talk about is our Magic Wand tool. So if we go just below our magnetic or our lasso tools, so magnetic lasso or polygon lasso, we have this option right here to either choose the quick selection or the Magic Wand tool. So let's start off with the Magic Wand tool. What the Magic Wand tool is going to do is it selects the pixels with similar colors with a single click. So if I go over my person here and click, you'll notice that with that selection, it selects pixels with similar color. Now for this example, the Magic Wand is not going to be a good fit, but if I were to go to Select and Inverse, I could delete, and that would get a portion of that. But for this example here, that's not going to be our best method. So let's get rid of that selection. And next, let's talk about another tool in that same section, the Quick Selection tool. Now the Quick Selection tool is another great tool. We can go over our person here and we can click different areas, and it's going to allow us to include those. So with the quick selection, it makes a selection based on the color and texture and similarity when you click or click and drag on the area that you want to select. So you'll notice if I again deselect that, if I simply just click on or click and drag on my person here, it's going to allow me to increase my selection and get parts that I want to include. Now let's say for some reason here I went a little crazy and I got off of the selection that I wanted to include. So you can see here I got some of the grass. what I can do to remove that without having to restart is if I go up into just this section up here, I have the option to click the subtract from selection button. So you'll notice that's the paintbrush with the little minus sign above it. When I click on that, you'll notice now on my screen that I have the ability to remove that different section that I had originally included there, and can remove that out so I no longer have the grass selected. And then again, if I went up to select and went to inverse, I could delete and remove that background. And then I'll click Control Z and Control D to change that deselection. Now what I want you to do next, we learned about those 3 different sections, those 3 different tool areas that you can use to remove the background. What I want you to do is mess around with those tools and try to remove the background around the person. As I said before, the magnetic ones seem to be the best, but you can work with any of those. When removing background, it's often a good idea to zoom in so that it's easier to see the selection that you're choosing, and also you can kind of get more fine with it. So for my example, I was just trying to keep it all on the screen there so that you could see it, but a lot of the times I was catching pieces of the dirt road, pieces of the grass. So when working with removing background, make sure that you zoom in and use your tools closer up so that you can really get those fine points. Now, I just used my magnetic lasso tool here and kind of zoomed in and selected my entire person here. From there, if I go up to select, I can again click inverse selection and remove that background. And then I'm going to use my magnifying glass and zoom out here so that I can see my entire deselection. What you want to do next is we're going to add this person to a different image so that it looks like instead of walking on the gravel path that she was originally on, she's walking in London. So if we go up to File, Open, we can find that image of London and open that up in Photoshop. And so now you can see I have that image in my document. If I go back up to my person walking tab, I'm going to first click Control D to deselect my person, and then if I simply use my move tool and drag that up here into my landscape photo, I can place that person in the document, and now it looks as if they are walking here. Now this person's a little bit bigger in proportion to the image than I would like, so if I ever want to change that, all I need to do is make sure I'm on the layer that is my person, and then I can go up to Edit and go down to Free Transform, or you can simply click Control T, and then I can simply just drag in and kind of change the sizing of the person so that they're a little more to scale with our image. And then as soon as I'm done, I can click Enter, and you'll notice now that that person looks like they are actually walking in London. Now sometimes, and I'm going to use my magnifying glass for this, and we're going to zoom in, sometimes you might forget to remove different parts of the background from a person or whatever you're trying to remove the background from. So as you can see, our person here, they have still the grass from the path in between their legs. Again, you can just use those different selection tools, so I might use my magnetic lasso tool here, and you can go over those sections to remove them. I didn't do the greatest job there, but I could go through and remove the different parts of the grass in here so that it looks better. But you can see kind of how you can use those different tools to remove the background and then combine that with another image.